2.5 million players. That's impressive.
I look good. I mean, really good. Hey, everyone! Come and see how good I look!
Less than half the sales of Borderlands 3?
Folks, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
What is up, Space Pirates? This is your Admiral, the ridiculously ruthless Dr. Disaster, and it looks like Borderlands 4 is in some trouble. It seems that maybe rushing to release a game that was clearly not ready might not have been a great idea for Gearbox. It turns out that seeing the game crash on the promo with Conan O'Brien a few weeks ago was not particularly beneficial.
Top thing there. Yeah, hold that. Wait, what?
We just went to...
What happened?
I don't know.
Oh, the game. You crashed the game?
How?
I
crashed the game.
I've never seen this crash.
This is
before.
fantastic.
I've never seen this crash.
I crashed the game. Sorry, Borderlands 4.
I've never seen this crash the game.
Oh no. Or maybe what hurt the company most was this sort of crap here, where the CEO of Gearbox, Randy Pitchford, went on a bunch of tirades, arguing with gamers and telling them that it wasn't his studio's fault that the game wasn't running very well. He blamed gamers for not having nice enough PCs. And as you can see in this little interaction on the screen here, he even got into it with Notch, the legendary creator of Minecraft, who told Randy to be a man. But Randy isn't exactly sympathetic and understanding of normal people. Earlier this year, when it sounded like Borderlands might be priced at $80, you'll probably remember that he said that real fans would find a way to buy it, and he just didn't understand when people called him out for that shit.
Is this some sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand?
Or maybe what hurt them at Gearbox was just years of doing stupid shit like this, where Gearbox earlier this year changed their profile on X during Pride Month in order to pander to the Pride crowd. Or maybe it was Borderlands 3 having such piss-poor writing that caused a bunch of people not to play Borderlands 4. There are a litany of reasons that could have potentially caused them to have major problems with the sales for Borderlands 4, but at the end of the day, this new game is selling much worse than Borderlands 3.
Things like this happen. That is what life is all about. Disappointment and failure, so get used to it.
Well, this disappointment for Gearbox is pretty damn bad considering that they apparently spent twice the amount of money on Borderlands 4 that they did for Borderlands 3. So, they spent double the money on development and they have sold less than half the units. I don't know about you guys, but when I see articles like this one trying to label this game as a success already, well, I'm going to show you how bad all of this is from a numbers perspective because the math ain't mathin'. And anyone trying to call this game a success at this point is just in this company's corner, quite clearly, as they try desperately to cope and put on a brave face.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Pure fiction.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me recently that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure that you check on that. And there's been a lot of talk about restricted mode being automatically enabled for a lot of users on YouTube, which would cut you off from a lot of your favorite channels. So don't forget to check into that as well and turn it off if it has been turned on and you don't want it. But alrighty, let's take a look at Borderlands 4. The thing is, typically, when a game is doing well, based on its budget and sales projections and all that sort of thing, they typically release their own announcements on social media bragging about how well they've sold their game. For example, when the AA game Claire Obscure Expedition 33 sold 1 million copies in 3 days earlier this year, they made a big deal out of it, as well they should have, because their budget was minuscule, and this was huge for them. And then, here is what the makers of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 posted on social media after they hit a couple million in sales in a little over a week. When they do well, these companies are not bashful, they like to celebrate, but when they refuse to release the information on their own, there is typically a good reason for that. With that in mind, let's look at what was reported about Borderlands 4's sales figures, and then we will make a comparison to Borderlands 3, and then we'll take a look at why this spells trouble for Gearbox. First of all, let's look at this article from GamesIndustry.biz. It says here, Borderlands 4 has amassed over 2.5 million players since its September 12th launch, amounting to revenues of over $150 million. That's according to data shared by Alinea Analytics with GamesIndustry.biz, which also notes that the game has sold more than 1.3 million copies on Steam, amounting to over $80 million in revenue, and over 1 million units on console. They are really focused, you'll notice, on that revenue number, trying really hard to make it sound like this game is generating massive money, but Gearbox doesn't get to take home all of that cash. A chunk of it goes to the platform which sold the game, which I will discuss in a minute here. But for now, let's jump over to this old article here from IGN from several years ago, right after Borderlands 3 came out. Here they were talking about the sales figures for that game. It says here, Borderlands 3's publisher 2K says the looter shooter sold over 5 million copies during its first 5 days on the market, making it the fastest selling game in the company's history. That works out at 50% more sales than Borderlands 2 during the same launch window. So, Borderlands 3 sold over 5 million copies in 5 days, whereas Borderlands 4 was just reported to have sold about 2.5 million copies in 10 days. That is quite a discrepancy there, and you can already see that sales are starting to slow down to a halt for Borderlands 4, because here is what it looked like for the game 5 days ago. It was announced that they had sold 2 million copies in its first 5 days, meaning that they have only managed another 500,000 in the subsequent 5 days. This is the natural order of things, of course. The biggest spike in sales is obviously going to come in that first launch weekend of release. And here's the problem for Gearbox. We're going to break down the numbers, you see, and I've talked about this before, but based on all the pre-order numbers that I was seeing in retail, and based on the Steam max concurrent player count, I said that we could expect that Borderlands 4 would track a little ahead of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and that is precisely what it looks like. In a week and a half, they've sold 2.5 million copies, whereas Kingdom Come sold a bit over 2 million in roughly that same amount of time. And now, after several months of release, Kingdom Come 2 has sold somewhere in the ballpark of 4 million copies. Because, as I said, sales always slow down after the initial burst of a release for a game, which will happen to Borderlands 4 as well. And while 4 million copies is pretty good for a smaller budget game like Kingdom Come, Borderlands is definitely not a small budget game. In fact, as I said before, Randy Pitchford told us that they spent over twice the amount of money on Borderlands 4 than they did for Part 3. Clearly, they expected to hit even bigger or at least similar sales figures with this game. That is what they were budgeted for. And now, Borderlands 3 is estimated to have cost Gearbox approximately $140 million to develop, which means that if they are over double the cost for Part 4, then we are talking a development budget in the vicinity of $300 million and maybe even more. And considering the amount of advertisements that I saw for this game leading up to release and even beyond, I am willing to bet that Gearbox spent every bit of the standard major AAA marketing cost of $100 million. In fact, I'm willing to bet that it's more than that. But for the sake of putting things in the best possible light for Borderlands, we'll just say it was $100 million. This means that in order to break even, the game needs to generate $400 million. Now, breaking that down even more, with an average sales price of $70 per unit, and considering that the platform who sells a game, whether it's the PlayStation Store or Steam or whatever, but considering that they take a roughly 25% cut of the sales, then this means that Borderlands takes home about $52 million per 1 million units sold. If you break down the math, this means that Borderlands needs to sell somewhere around 7.5 to 8 million units at full price just to break even on this game. So now you can see why selling only 2.5 million copies in its first few weeks is not exactly sterling for Gearbox, especially since they are clearly slowing down quite a bit. Conversely, if they had sold 5 or 6 million units like Borderlands 3 in its first couple weeks, then they would have been in great shape with Borderlands 4. But it looks like this company has lost somewhere around half of their audience since the last game. Now, we can speculate about what caused that. Maybe it was playing politics, or maybe it was the shitty writing from the last couple of games. Maybe it was the talk of bad performance for Borderlands 4, or hell, maybe it was because there were some people out there who just really hated the movie that released last year. Whatever the reason though, this clearly is a franchise that has seen massive decline, and based on simple economics, they are on pace to flop hard. But I'm gonna leave it there. What do you think caused Borderlands to lose so many players? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.